Hello, and welcome back to the Priest channel. Today, let's have a look at this thing. The 198-in-1 multi-cartridge for Famicom and Famiclone. Actually, it's mostly for Famiclone. The things we are going to be taking a look at in this video are the build quality, the overall quality of the games that there are, how well it was executed, what games you get. We're going to be taking a look at how much truth and how much fakery is on this cartridge, as well as the pros and the cons. So stick around until the end of this video because I have lots of information to share, some background and history. Like I've said, we'll be taking a look at all the games, the list that is, and I'll show you some of the games, so let's get started. First, let's take a look at the build quality. The material, how well was this built? But I could sit here all day and tell you if this is good or bad. Rather, let's compare it to the original from way back 20 years or something ago. Introducing Super 98 51-in-1. At least that's the title. I mean, taking a look at this, what would you think? 51 games in one cartridge. But that was not the case. More about this later in the video. But before we proceed, I would like to remind you that there are timestamps in the description below, as well as on the timeline, so if you want to skip forward and watch some other part of the video, feel free to do so. Also, if you guys appreciate the video, feel free to rate it, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel for more videos like this and videos about Famiclone. Now, let's get back to the review. First, we take a look at the color. You'll notice that the newer cartridge has much more saturated color, I guess more orangey, if you will. This one is more faded out, if you will. Taking a look at the size, we can see that the width is pretty much identical, and it has to be for it to go inside the console. Now, taking a look at the height, we'll notice that the older cartridge is actually a little bit larger. However, that does not present any issues. Still, you can put it into the console just fine. And finally, the thickness, we'll notice that the newer one is just slightly less thicker. Still, once again, does not present any problem. Just taking a look at the overall build quality, both of them actually feel pretty sturdy. Now, some of the features of the older cartridge is these little indent lines, which are used so you can actually, once you plug in the cartridge into the console, you can easily take the cartridge out. There is something like that on the newer cartridge, these dots instead of lines, and they are actually present on both sides of the cartridge. Now, you do have lines on the side to help you out, but that's as far as it goes. Still, the dots do just fine job in my opinion. They are just there once again to help you easily take out the cartridge out of the console. I really want to say that on the newer cartridge, it just feels like it feels like you have more grip, honestly. In short, there's no question about it. The newer cartridge, slightly smaller, but way more improved. The quality is just the same, and the color is actually even better. But now, let us actually talk history. I want to actually talk about the label here. We can see on the label, this is, I think, Devil May Cry character, and actually the thumbnail, we also see the title, Cool Boy and 198-in-1. And you think when you look at this, wow, incredible. Now, the thing is, this is actually exaggerated. You think you're going to get some crazy games, you think you're getting lots of crazy games, everything's awesome, but this has been the case from way back 20 years ago. Nothing has changed. I'm actually going to show you some of the cartridges that were actually popular back in the day. For example, Mighty Final Fight, Jungle Book, or Darkwing Duck, games like such. And these were actually high production games. The games that everybody wanted to play. Really good games, really popular games, very well made. But there were a bunch of games that were simply not that good or not that popular amongst the kids. Like, for example, you have maybe Circles Charlie or tennis or maybe chess. Maybe some of the more boring games that are not high production values. So what do you do when you have such situation? People don't want to buy those games, they want better games. So what do? Well, you make something like this. Super 98, 51-in-1. Wow. Wait, no, let's actually do 80-in-1. Oh, now we're getting crazy. You know what? Let's just let go. 178 in one. This is getting out of hand. Well, you know, we had enough. 500 in one, people. 500 in one. Unbelievable. But, you know, we're not thinking big here. We're not thinking stonks. Screw all these. Let's do 900 million, 999, whatever the hell, 999. Put how many nines you want. It's all in one, baby. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. So as you as you can see here, these crazy exaggerations were happening way back in the day. You had crazy titles, images like Super Mario, or even look at this PlayStation 1 images, driver game. You had all sorts of things happening, just crazy images that would attract your attention, from titles to all the popular games. Even movie stars and movie titles, cartoons as well, were used. Pikachu the most, for example. These were the things that the whole world knew about. These were the things that were very popular, so Chinese manufacturers decided to use this to their advantage. You know, let's use these crazy images, let's use these crazy titles and make people think that they are going to get something insane. And this, people, is the core existence of clickbait. This is where it all started. When you look at these, obviously, what do you think? You're going to get these games, you think you're going to get these, the number of games is 100 millions in one. And you think, you think you're going to get that many games, but no, essentially, this is the title of the cartridge. And they just used images that were somehow related to the game. So if it's a boxing game, you might see somebody who's a boxer, or not even a boxer, just a fighter. They might put, if it's a boxing game, they might put Jackie Chan on it. It's a fighting game. Who cares? It has some sense. It makes sense. Put it in, package it, sell it, profit. Stonks, people. Stonks. And so you see that 198 in one, cool boy, crazy real game, or whatever they mention when they sell this to you. This is not a novelty. This was happening, and it still is happening, and it will still happen. Now, this is all fun and games, but let us take a sneak peek, a closer look at this cartridge. The games that it provides, are they any good? Are these top-notch games that everybody wants to play? Are there any boring games? Any bootlegs, hacked games, versions? What's going on here? So here we are, guys. The cartridge has been loaded and it's called 198 in one real game. As we take a look at the cartridge, you'll notice that the first lists of the games are some of the best games you can find out there. Games like Contra, Double Dragon, Chip and Dale, Robocop, Tiny Toon, and such. So as we go through the list, I want to mention that you can find the full list of all the games on my website. Link is going to be in the video description, but you can just search on Google YT Priest website and you'll find it very fast. Anyways, as we go through this list of all the games, you will notice that the quality of the games, or the production value at very least, starts to degrade. First, you were able to see all the good games, Double Dragon, Contra, and stuff like that. But now as we go further and further, you have some other games. You also start to see a bunch of bootleg and hacked games appear on the list. One of them, for example, being Harry Potter. Never heard of that game, but if you run it, you will actually notice that it's just a hack of a different game, Aladdin 3. So as we continue through the list, you will still see some very good games, but in the mix you're gonna see a bunch of unknown games, or maybe not so good games. For example, what is this? Season Garden, Twin Cards, I don't even know, I never heard of these games. Sure, you get some good games in between, but we're really starting to see what's going on here. You also slowly are starting to see bootlegged games and hacked games. For example, Mario 10. What is that? I only know about Mario 1, 2, and 3. Well, this is actually Kung Fu Mari, or basically Jackie Chan's Action Kung Fu, is the original game, and somebody just replaced the head of Jackie with Super Mario. That's basically it. The good thing about the cartridge as well is you don't only get English games, to say so, you also get a bunch of Japanese games. Now, as we move through the list, you will notice that there aren't actually 198 games in one, there's actually 205 games. So that's what I've been mentioning. This is just the title of the cartridge, 198 in one. If I press right or down to move forward, it's going to actually take me to the start of the list. And the first game, let's just run Contra for example, you will notice that this is in fact Hack of Contra, where you actually have a bunch of options. You can start with some good guns, or you can actually start at the very last stage. So yeah, you're really starting to see variety here. Not only English version games, not only official games, but also bootleg and hacked games, as well as I'm going to show you that there are some Japanese version games that might not have been released in other places in the world. One of the games, for example, is Power Ranger, which is actually Kyoru Sentai Kyuranger! Oh, whatever. Yeah, I don't think this game was released in, for example, America on Nintendo official. Maybe it was available on Famicom, but I'm not sure. However, I actually was able to play it when I was very young. This is one of my favorite cartridges actually, or games for this system. These are the kinds of games that we as Famiclone players had a privilege to enjoy and play. Overall, this cartridge brings all of it together. Just official, unofficial, hacked, bootleg, everything is in there. Some of, surely you will agree, cult games, for example, Circus Charlie is available as well. Even some default games, to say so. For example, obviously Super Mario Duck Hunt is there. One of the things you might have noticed on the list is the game Pikachu, which actually if you start up the game you will notice it's just Tetris. What happens is there's Pikachu standing there looking at you, and every time you score some points, to say so, he just smiles and does something, I don't know, some celebration. All in all, it's a fantastic compilation, but without further ado, let us jump into pros and the cons of this cartridge. So first really good thing is this cartridge is very cheap. Costs anywhere from 4 euros to about 7 euros. Really depends on where you are able to acquire it from. Anyways, being very cheap, you get plenty of games. And this multi-cart is actually a mix of all sorts of games, like I've said. The good, the bad, the popular, the less popular, something for the older people, something for younger people, more action, shooting, everything is there. Bootlegs, hacks, official, unofficial, America, Europe, Japan, all sorts of games, everything mixed in together. So you get this huge concoction of games that you can enjoy for a while. One good thing that should not be overlooked is the size of the cartridge. Look how many games you get on this one cartridge. That means you do not have to go out there and look for all these cartridges yourself. You don't have to pay for them separately. You don't have to check if they work, clean all of them, fix if some are not working, maintain them essentially is what I'm trying to say. You don't have to stack them, you don't have to waste all that space on buying these games separately. Instead, you have one cartridge with all the games. Everything's there and saves a lot of space. It's a great gift and it's functional. However, having the good sides surely brings in some of the bad sides, which is, of course, it's cheap, but it's going to take about 1 month to arrive. Also, one thing, plenty of games on one cartridge, sure, but if the cartridge breaks, you lose all the games. You cannot swap out the cartridge for another game. You cannot just close out one game, pick another one. No, if something breaks, everything breaks. So a good advice would be to purchase 2 or 3 of these cartridges just in case if one breaks, you have a backup. Good thing is, like I've said, you get to experience it all. And as far as nostalgic aspect goes, that's phenomenal because I grew up with plenty of these games. These are the games of my childhood. The good, the bad, the ugly, the great, bootlegs, hacks, everything. I've played everything because we had Famiclone games, we had Famiclone consoles, we had mix of everything. But one thing you will be missing out on is collecting all of those cartridges separately. You're not going to go through that journey. You're not going to experience the emotions, the adventure, the atmosphere, everything that having and owning, also purchasing, locating, and taking care of these cartridges, everything that brings you. And that is something that, for example, I don't want to miss out on. I like to have more cartridges. I know they take more space, but for me, it's a price I am willing to pay. Now, one major con is that this cartridge might not work on your console. I actually have two consoles that this cartridge simply doesn't work on. It simply does not want to load. I plug in the cartridge, I turn on the console, nothing, black screen. I restart, nothing. Turn it off, on again, nothing, still doesn't work. But however, I do have another console that this cartridge works on. So my advice to you is try to own at least 1 or 2 or 3 consoles just in case. Now, in my actual case, I have Famiclone consoles. This cartridge will probably work on actual official Famicom consoles, so that might be a good thing, but this is Famiclone, so you never know. So as we get to the end of this video, the final verdict is this cartridge is definitely worth the purchase. Like I said, so many good pros, sure some cons, but for the most part you're not going to care about those. I care about those because I want to experience it all. But even for me, even if I wanted to save all the space and all these things, just buy this one cartridge. It's phenomenal. You get everything. Surely you don't get all the top games, like 100% top games. You're gonna get some crap. But it's the price I'm willing to pay, and it's phenomenal. It's not the crap that's phenomenal. It's the cartridge. I love it. And that gets me to the end of this video. If you guys enjoyed the video, do consider subscribing to the channel because I plan to make many more videos like this on Famiclone consoles and games and bunch of things that I'm interested in general. Leave me your comments and thoughts below if you want me to check out something else and if you have any questions. And that's about it. Thank you so much for tuning into this video. I will catch you in the next one. Priest, signing out.
Ticking for hours. Yeah, I feel so old. Gotta waste no time, gotta wait in line and the weather's so cold. Should've brought my coat at the end of the line on my shit untold. Messed up a lot, used to be waiting for something or someone to give me my spot. God only show you the way, it's all up to the plan and the paper and people you brought. I know what I got.